From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on January 21st, 2025 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. On this episode of The Lede, we take you through part of now former President Joe Biden's final full day in office that he spent in South Carolina. We were in the press pool with him at every stop and have highlights from his trip, saying thank you and goodbye to the Palmetto State. We also have reaction from Senator Lindsey Graham on Inauguration Day and hear his thoughts about how much it will cost to implement border security. And talking about the Gulf of America? ? Even Lindsey doesn't know. Now, the Lede loves to hear from you. I'm told we have a call that we'll be hearing in the wind down section. You can join us in the wind down section easily by calling 803-563-7169. It's toll free. Operators are standing by, and we are just interested to hear your takes. We don't get too political because sometimes we don't really want to talk about that in the wind down. Give us some things to think about. We got some football I think we're going to be talking about. A lot of people have a lot of opinions, I'm told. Some good, some bad. 803-563-7169. All right, let's look at what's on tap this week in the State House. Lawmakers are in perfunctory, that's a fun word to say, session this week, which means they are not going to be in their chambers. Rather, they are meeting in committees to get more bills onto the calendar so they can talk about that while they're in their respective chambers. But winter weather has led to cancellations of several committee meetings. Be safe out there, folks. Looking at the governor's schedule, we're still waiting on that, but we do know based on his social media presence that he was up in Washington for the inauguration and a few inaugural balls. And in Congress, they are in session this week, and the Senate on Monday evening unanimously confirmed Senator Marco Rubio as the next Secretary of State, the first cabinet confirmation for the Trump administration. Now to our main story.
And now for our feature presentation.
President Joe Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden spent the last full day of the Biden presidency, the culmination of some 50 years in politics. They spent it in South Carolina.
Wow.
That's right, the state that brought him to the dance back in the 2020 primary, and a state, its people and politicians that have been close to him for decades. One of those closest and most important relationships has been with 6th District Congressman Jim Clyburn, whose endorsement of Biden in the 2020 South Carolina Democratic presidential primary at the behest of Clyburn's late wife, Emily, was key to Biden winning the diverse state and propelling him to the White House. Biden always thanks Clyburn and did several times Sunday, including at Missionary Baptist Church in North Charleston.
And thank you for the congregation of Royal Missionary Baptist Church and welcoming me back to Charleston to worship with you. I prayed with you here in February of 2020, when I was running for president. On my final full day as president, of all the places I wanted to be was back here with you. And friends in South Carolina like Jim and Emily Clyburn. I could not be standing here. I would not be standing. That's not hyperbole. I would not be standing here in this pulpit were not for Jim Clyburn. And although somewhat presumptuous of me, neither of us would be standing here without Emily, who we all miss dearly and who actually made Jim endorse me. Thank you, Emily.
Biden last visited the church days before winning the primary in 2020, and the congregation was enthused to see him again on Sunday, where he and his family sat in the front row. Dr. Isaac Holt preached and prayed over them, and the choir led the congregation in uplifting song. Biden and others also remembered Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy, a day ahead of the official holiday, with the 46th president leaving the congregation with a message of hope and perseverance, traits well understood within the Black community.
We must hold on to hope. We must stay engaged. We must always keep the faith in a better day to come. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not kidding. So the people of South Carolina, thank you for keeping the faith. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. The highest honor for Jill and our family. As I close out this journey with you, I'm just as passionate about our work as I was as a 29-year-old kid when I got elected. I wasn't old enough to serve yet. I'm in no ways tired. I've always heard before, we've come too far from where we started. Nobody told me the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. My fellow Americans, I don't think the good Lord brought us this far to leave us behind. As they say where I come from, you the guys that brought me to the dance. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Now, before greeting the congregation at the church, Biden gave brief remarks on the Hamas-Israel ceasefire deal that included a swap of Palestinian prisoners and Israeli hostages. He spoke in a room within the church before the press pool, a podium, drapes, lights, and a teleprompter.
The deal that I first put forward last May for the Middle East has finally come to fruition. The ceasefire has gone into effect in Gaza, and today we're seeing hostages being released. 3 Israeli women held against their will in the dark tunnels for 470 days. 4 more women will be released in 7 days, 3 additional hostages every 7 days thereafter, including at least 2 American citizens in this first phase. By the 16th day of the deal, talks will begin in the second phase. This phase includes the release of Israeli soldiers and a permanent end of the war without Hamas in power or able to threaten Israel.
The congregation at Royal Missionary Baptist, which has hosted presidential hopefuls before, including Biden's Vice President Kamala Harris back in 2019 when she was the California senator running to be president. Now on Sunday, Clyburn thanked Biden for his work and drew some parallels to the civil rights movement.
So I just want to say to all of you today, I am as disappointed as you are with the outcomes of the last election, but I am not discouraged. I came here today to ask you to faint not. Stay in the game. Let's start making better use of our time. And let's dedicate ourselves to doing the things that are necessary to lead to our children and our grandchildren a place much better than we found it.
Biden gave similar thanks to those that he usually makes when talking in the state, including how the former late Senator Fritz Hollings and his wife Pete provided him comfort and motivation following the death of his first wife and daughter in 1972, urging the then young senator from Delaware to stay in the Senate and in the fight, a message he conveyed to his supporters throughout Sunday. First Lady Dr. Jill Biden spoke of the connection to the state at the International African American Museum. In fact, there are so many connections to the Bidens in South Carolina. I'm even thinking about back in August 2022 when the First Lady extended her vacation at Kiowa because she contracted mild COVID. A lot of connections here.
Joe and I have always been drawn to you, South Carolina. You met us with kindness and incredible warmth here. We found friends and mentors in your cities and your towns. We found respite on your shores. In 2015, when we lost our son Bo to cancer, Joe and I brought our family to the Low Country to find peace. You helped us heal when we had reached life's lowest lows. And it's also here in 2020 where you gave us wings. After healing us, you believed in Joe's courage and conviction to heal our nation. South Carolina made sure that Joe became the 46th President of the United States.
The Bidens toured the museum along with Clyburn, former Charleston Mayor Joe Riley, We're talking two key players in getting that museum off the ground right there, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. EPA Administrator Michael Reagan, who resigned earlier this year, was also in attendance for Biden's speech, as were a number of current and former state Democratic lawmakers and politicos. I'm not going to list everyone here because I don't want hate mail. Of course, these were all invited guests, but nevertheless, I did speak to someone I didn't know, Janae Nelson, who is the Director Counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. She praised Biden's decision to spend time in South Carolina before leaving office and said this when I asked her what the biggest part of Biden's legacy will be.
Oh, he's got so much to choose from, but one of the most important aspects of his legacy will be the work that he's done to diversify the federal judiciary. He has a historic number of judges that he nominated and got confirmed, including the largest number of black women judges from different professional backgrounds, which is incredibly important, as I think our courts will play an outsized role in pushing back against what I expect will be an authoritarian regime.
While introducing him at the museum, Clyburn gave an extended round of remarks, hammering home in more detail than before all those accomplishments of Biden's term, from infrastructure investment, student debt cancellation, extending benefits to veterans affected by burn pits, the CHIPS Act, and more. He also noted the significance of the museum he pushed to be named the International African American Museum, or IAM. Now, for the 82-year-old Biden, the event, his final trip as president, was a capstone to 50 years in public life. At times throughout the trip, you could see some sadness on his face, some somber moments, but he was restored by the energy of the enthusiastic Sunday church service and found reverence in the solemn ground of Gadsden's Wharf, the major port of entry for slaves in America, on which the museum was constructed.
A promise I made here in South Carolina, I can go on, but the point is, we're proving that by remembering our history, we can make history. We know the battle for the soul of America continues. In this moment of strength of our institutions and democracy, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, a free and independent press, and yes, our institutions and our communities like this museum, they matter more than ever. To tell the truth of our nation, to stand up to what my dad said the worst of all sins was the abuse of power. And I'm sure everyone gets a fair shot. That's what it's all about. To understand the journey of our democracy is difficult and ongoing, and the distance is short between peril and possibility. But we got to keep going. Scripture says, I've been young and now I'm old, yet I've never seen the righteous forsaken. After all these years working alongside you, I have not seen the righteous forsaken. I love you all. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. My family owes you. We owe you. The nation owes you. May God keep the faith, and may God bless the souls of sacred place. God bless America.
Following those remarks, it was a quick trip back to Joint Base Charleston, where the gray skies that greeted the retiring statesman earlier were replaced by a mild, late afternoon sun. A picture-perfect Carolina backdrop for his final flight on Air Force One as president. Clyburn and former Columbia Mayor Steve Benjamin, who served in the West Wing as assistant to the president and senior advisor to the president and director of the Office of Public Engagement, flew back to D.C. with Biden. On Monday, in the final moments of his presidency, Biden issued several pardons, including several preemptively for his family. He also pardoned former Columbia City Councilman E.W. Cromartie, a lawyer who in 2011 spent 10 months in federal prison for tax evasion and structuring bank deposits. From one administration to the next, let's move on here to President Donald Trump, who was sworn in Monday just after noon in the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol, marking the biggest political comeback in modern American history. Senators Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott, as well as about 600 other folks, were crammed in there to watch. And Graham spoke with reporters afterwards about the speech and several issues, including Trump using the Alien Enemies Act to deport dangerous non-citizens and classifying the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
So, number one, he said he wanted to make Mexican drug cartels foreign terrorist organizations under U.S. law. There are about a dozen cartels that run Mexico. They make billions of dollars sending into our country fentanyl. 3,000 Americans every 2 weeks die from fentanyl overdoses, starting in China, coming through Mexico, run by the cartels. The cartels are criminal enterprises, a national security threat. By designating the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization, it gives us more tools to go after them. The 1798 law you just referred to allows us to remove groups that are a threat to our country. And what people don't realize is the gangs throughout Latin America, Mexico, and that part of the world have set up shop in our major cities in Atlanta and Chicago. So they operate inside of America. They have American chapters of, Mexican cartels and gangs throughout Central and South America operating in the United States. So, yes, I think he has the legal ability to designate groups as enemy aliens designed to, inflict pain on the United States.
Graham was asked about President Biden's preemptive pardoning of his family members minutes before leaving the White House, citing potential future investigations despite no known wrongdoing.
I was very disappointed because I think it's sort of a political grandstand theater, trying to continue the narrative that didn't work, that somehow President Trump is going to turn the country upside down and go after people he doesn't like, just to continue that storyline as a parting shot to President Trump. I thought it was more political theater and, quite frankly, a cheap way to leave office.
As for renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, well, Graham said it's pretty hard to say whether that's going to happen.
No, I mean, you never know with him. I don't know. I don't know if you have to go reprogram your GPS or change your map. I don't know. He says he wants the Panama Canal back. Let's see how all that plays out. I thought it was a mistake to give it away, but, again, there was an element to this speech that I think Americans are yearning for, that we're the winners again. We're going to be strong. We're going to be tough. We're not going to, meddle in other people's business, but we're not going to be trifled with. And we'll see what happens if it becomes the Gulf of America and Mexico. Time will tell, but with President Trump, all things are possible.
Graham also said that he'll continue to make his frequent appearances on the Sunday shows. You guys know that. They're always on here. Pa loves it. Which he said he enjoys to the detriment of his pastor. In fact, he was on CBS's Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan, where he was asked about how much Trump's immigration priorities will cost through the budget reconciliation process, which is complex. It's a very tricky process that goes through Graham's budget committee. Here is his response.
Yes, $100 billion for border security through reconciliation would be enough to hire ICE agents, create new detention beds, and finish the wall and put technology in place over 4 years. $200 billion will be given to the military to make it more capable of deterring China. $100 billion for border, $200 billion for the military. I met with Mike Johnson yesterday. He's a dear friend. I admire him greatly. He has a political problem in the House. He wants to do one big, beautiful bill. I've never been more worried about an attack on our homeland than I am now. With the rise of ISIS in Afghanistan and wars all over the world, I think the number one priority for the Republican Party should be to secure that border. You need new money to do it. And if we don't, we're playing Russian roulette with our own national security. Border first, military funding first, get the tax cuts and spending reductions put together later on. You need to secure that border like our life depended on it.
Well, this bill is going to be bigger than the $300 billion you just laid out. What's the timetable on that? Because Johnson says
bigger.
Memorial Day.
Well, I hope we can get there. But to those who want to reduce spending, I'm giving you an opportunity to come meet me next week. You've got to cut spending that's reconciliation compliant, and we got enough votes to reduce spending. So Can we do $2.5 trillion over 10 years? Let's give it a try. I want to do two things: cut spending and make the tax cuts permanent.
And Graham and Margaret got a little fresh when talking about Kash Patel, Trump's FBI pick, who has talked previously about going after his enemies, including former director Christopher Wray, Defense Secretary Austin, others, and journalists. However, this is a rare Jackson brother Venn diagram of FBI and journalism right here. Take a listen.
Okay. Ask him about going after journalists, which he's also said. I'm interested in the answer to that question.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We'll be right
I'm
back.
sure Democratic friends will ask him, and you shouldn't worry about Kash Patel.
Okay.
You should worry about reporting the news fairly, which you don't do when it comes to everything Trump.
Lindsey Graham, you're a guest on this program because we wanted to hear you out. And we welcome you back,
Good.
as we
Thank
often do,
I'll be
anytime,
back.
to Legacy
I'll be
Media.
back.
We'll be right back.
That was Senator Lindsey Graham there on CBS's Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan. And don't worry, we'll always bring you some of the highlights of Senator Graham on the Sunday shows. As he says, they're key to setting the tone for the weekend. He gets out there and sets it. And apologies to his pastor from the lead. Thank you. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news.
Tiny break.
This tiny break, tiny mic with A.T. Shire, lead producer. We should get some more of these tiny mics, huh?
I don't even know where we got the first one.
Who could say?
But
I think we shrunk one of the mics here.
Yes, it was the process the same as Willy Wonka.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very similar to
Mike
that.
TV.
It goes through the air and you see it going through. You have to wear a weird suit where only your face is showing, but you can still keep your top hat on. Yeah, it's very strange.
I think Mike TV was probably my favorite character.
I don't know. The girl with the gum behind her ear, I thought, what the hell is that? Even as a child.
Violet?
Yeah, I don't know any of their names. All I remember is the
She
gum.
became a giant blueberry.
Yeah, and she got pushed down a shaft or something. I don't
That
remember.
was Veruca.
You know too much. Anyway, Gavin, one thing I know
icon.
is that we have a
Great
call,
book.
and then we're going to get into a maybe argument. So, Gavin, are you ready for the call that has nothing to do with our argument later?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, Gavin and AT. This is David from Columbia. I am calling you live from Interstate 20 as I'm driving back from Atlanta after flying out to Denver for my brother's bachelor party this weekend. And I would just like to say we were in Denver and the highs were in the teens for the entire weekend. And I didn't realize how much I had listened to the lead and been deeply affected by it. But every time someone said something about the weather, AT's voice popped in my head and just went, disgusting. And I realized, apparently I spend a lot more time with you guys than I thought. Also, I got off the plane and it's currently 29 degrees as I'm driving back. I was really hoping that it would be significantly warmer here in South Carolina, but it appears that I am here just in time for the cold to get here. Just listened to the last episode, and AT, when you mentioned that Vince Colblugo was the Vince from Who What When, I feel like the rug has been pulled out from under me. I have a whole new view of the world. I feel like that is some insider trading nonsense, and I completely did me wrong. And then last, y'all talking about Helm's Deep made me laugh.
Yes.
In high school, I read The Lord of the Rings to try and impress a girl. It did not work, and I gave up in the middle of reading Helm's Deep. I went back years later them and found my old bookmark, and I made it through Tom Bombadil. I made it through the stupid ints doing all of their songs and whatnot. And just in the middle of Helm's Deep decided, not for me, which is just living proof that high schoolers are idiots. Hope you all are doing well, and looking forward to hearing more from y'all soon. Bye.
David, thank you for calling us, especially on the way back from a bachelor party in Denver, but he brought the cold weather with him.
Yeah, you brought it here. What are you doing?
Why'd you bring the cold weather? But we love spending time with you, too, as you do with us. And, yeah, Vince keeping it low key, huh? A little sneak does not announce
Vince from
himself.
Columbia. Yeah, he did win. That's what happens. I'm gonna pull back the curtain here, David, just a little bit, okay? When you get a 40 episode order, and it really depends on callers calling in, and you record so many before the show even starts, you call in some favors from your friends, okay? And David, that's why I'm calling on you. If you would like to be, a caller on Who What When, I can arrange that for you. All you need is the morning free on a weekday.
Easy.
It's an easy time. Yeah, it takes 1 hour.
Well, you have his phone number, so just keep calling him.
I will spam you now. This is your fault. And I gotta say, reading Lord of the Rings to impress a girl is the wrong.
Did you?
The
never
wrong
worked
way
for
to
you?
do it. Yeah, it never worked for me. I had to trap Caitlin in a relationship before I got her interested in it.
Hey, now you want to read this book? You want to read this book? You want to read this book with me now?
Yes.
Yeah. You start with the movies. Okay, you start with the movies, and then you get them into the book.
This is pro level, and we're creeping up on Valentine's Day here, guys.
Yeah,
these are tips and tricks.
You got to spare 13 hours. You watch the Lord of the Rings extended edition.
We are turning into a bro podcast.
Speaking of, Gavin, this is a great transition here. Okay, so normally we're talking about the sphere of influence of the Eagles here. And Gavin, he is an Eagles fan insofar as my mental well-being is directly correlated to how well the Philadelphia Eagles do in any given year. And so Gavin checks more than any other team. He checks on the Eagles to see how they've done.
On Sunday to see what I can expect on Monday.
What's he walking into
just to be
on
safe.
Monday? Yeah. And so this year's been great for him. We've won 17 games this year out of I don't know, 21, something like that. But Gavin, notoriously from
the Washington Metro DC area.
Washington Metro DC area. And who is playing the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game for the right to go to the Super Bowl? But
the Commanders.
The Commandos, the Washington Footballs. This is the worst possible case for the pod.
We were trying to avoid this.
This is really like for those 30 years of the footballs being terrible was great for the pod. They did that for the pod even before podcasts.
We've been building this up. But you wanted this to happen because that way y'all didn't have to play
We didn't have to play the Lions. We didn't have to play the Bucks, which is a little bugaboo for the Eagles. And so the Commandos really paved the way for the Eagles a little bit.
But what does that signify to you in terms of how good Washington is and how worried you should be this Sunday?
Well, I live worried about the Philadelphia Eagles, so it can't go up or go down. It just is at a hi hat, like it's at 100 at all times
until football's over, and then you can breathe again.
The Commandos have faced bad defenses. Okay,
they'd probably be cooler than the Commanders.
It would be cool. It should be the Washington Generals. It should be. That's a great name. And then you have General Washington as your mascot, right?
Oh, yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah, just like the Nationals and they have the presidents run.
Right, yeah, the hot dog presidents.
Yeah, this was Dan Snyder, right? Or is after Snyder left? Dan Snyder
might have done it
a
too.
Scourge.
And
that is why you are seeing him blossom now, because that man is not there anymore.
He was great for me as an Eagles fan.
He was a plant by the Eagles.
He was really like holding that team down.
Just really keep everyone really angry the whole time,
Dan.
Dan.
Was just not going to games. Yeah, but so I proposed this question to Gavin. I said, what's better? What would you hope for here? Are you hoping for your team to win and me be inconsolable?
Morning.
And so would he like that? Or would he like the Eagles to beat his team so I'm happy for another 2 weeks?
I'm not sacrificing the greater good of the D.C. metro area just to placate
Don't they have enough? Don't they have enough?
To appease Phillies fans. Don't they have enough? How many rings have you had, my friend?
One.
You went to 2. I thought you had 2.
We lost one.
Oh, we haven't even seen one.
That's true.
In
Since
God knows when. So
1991?
can't you give me a little something? I mean, of course, any given Sunday, besides this coming Sunday,
Great
I'd
movie.
say let your birds
fly.
Let me look at the script. Fly.
Go birds. Hey, go birds.
And Dawn, I love that Dawn. And I was talking to Victoria Hansen. We were in the motorcade with President Biden.
Big Birds fan.
Her husband, she's like, I got to figure out what I'm coming home to, has a tattoo on his chest of a bird.
Naturally.
Of a bird.
I'm
going to have to pull for the Commanders. I mean, it's just what it's going to have to be.
I hate to hear it.
It's going to have to be what it is.
Hey, you're pulling against Baby Reno.
I'm going to
mind you.
I'm gonna watch the game with my father.
My father,
who gave me this podcast,
and a Commandos fandom.
But
people, I bet David wants the Eagles to win. Eagles, David. Thank you very much. And if anyone does want to be on Who What When, please text the hotline. I will get you on. Okay.
We know the right people to get you on.
Otherwise, you're gonna hear these people's names. Adam, one of my best men. Jake, one of my best men. My brother's gonna be on it. My
Vince,
friend Craig is gonna be on it.
The cold lube go.
Cold lubes go. Okay. So anyway, people,
cold brew go.
Let me know. See you later,
Thank
Gavin.
you all Fly. Be like David, guys. Give us a shout, 803-563-7169. We will get you on this podcast if we believe in you enough. And you can always show us your appreciation by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or a voicemail, 803-563-7169. You can always stay up to date with the latest news on scetv.org/news and southcarolinapublicradio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. I see I have the collar up because I have to keep my vocal cords warm.
I have a cold neck.
And it just kind of proves my point for Vess that, yeah, it keeps part of me warm, but, like, I'm still cold right here.
No, my arms, warm. Like, my neck, cold.
Why?
My arms, hot, sweaty.